Too often we get discouraged when things don't go our way. We think, why is this happening to me? When will I see my breakthrough? But let me remind you, God never starts something He doesn't finish. The very things you're worrying about today are already being handled by the one who controls the universe. Your job is not to figure out how, it's to trust, believe, and keep moving forward because He is working to fulfill His plan for your life. You are not forgotten. It may feel like life has passed you by. Maybe you've been waiting for a breakthrough, a promotion, a relationship to turn around, or a dream to come to pass, and it seems like nothing is happening. You look around and it appears like everyone else is getting blessed. Your friends are getting married. Your coworkers are getting promoted. Opportunities are opening up for people around you. And yet you're still in the same place, still waiting, still wondering, God, have you forgotten about me? But let me remind you today, God has not forgotten you. He knows exactly where you are. And He sees every effort, every tear, every time you've stayed faithful. Even when things didn't make sense. Just because you haven't seen the answer yet doesn't mean it's not coming. Sometimes the waiting season is where the greatest growth happens. When it seems like nothing is changing on the outside, something is changing on the inside. God is strengthening your character, deepening your faith, and preparing you for what He has in store. Think about a seed planted in the ground. When a farmer sows a seed, he doesn't see anything happening right away. There are no signs of progress. But underground, in the soil where no one can see, that seed is taking root. It's being nurtured, strengthened, and prepared to break through the surface. The farmer doesn't dig up the seed every day to check if it's growing. He trusts the process. In the same way, you may not see it, but your breakthrough is already in motion. The doors you've been praying for are already being lined up. The right people are already being positioned. The healing, the restoration, the promotion, it's already set in place. But here's the key. Don't get discouraged in the waiting. Sometimes God doesn't bring things to pass right away because He's preparing you for a bigger blessing than you imagine. If He gave it to you too soon, you might not be ready to handle it. So instead of feeling forgotten, shift your mindset. Say, God, I trust your timing. I trust that you see the full picture. I trust that you are working behind the scenes in ways I can't even imagine. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He was sold into slavery by his own brothers, thrown into prison for something he didn't do, and spent years in a place where it seemed like he had been forgotten. But even in that prison, God was preparing him for the palace. If Joseph had gone straight from his father's house to the throne, he wouldn't have been ready. But through every trial, every setback, God was shaping him, strengthening him, and positioning him for the incredible destiny ahead. The same is true for you. Every disappointment, every delay, every lonely night, it's not wasted. It's working for your good. And when God moves, it will happen suddenly. The doors will open, the opportunity will come, and you'll step into a blessing so great that you'll look back and say, now I understand. Now I see why I had to wait. Now I see why certain things didn't work out, because God had something even better in store. So hold on, stay in faith, keep doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. Keep showing up, keep believing, keep expecting, because God has not forgotten you. Your moment is coming, and when it does, it will be bigger, better, and beyond what you ever imagined. Delays are not denials. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Too often, we assume that if our prayers haven't been answered on our timeline, if we haven't seen the breakthrough when we expected it, then maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe God changed His mind. Maybe we missed our chance. But that's not how God works. His delays are never meant to discourage you. They are designed to develop you. Think about a child who asks a parent for something they aren't ready for yet. A 5-year-old may want to drive a car, but a loving parent will say, not yet, one day, when you're ready, you'll have it. The parent isn't saying no forever, just not right now. It's not because the child isn't loved. In fact, it's the opposite. Because of love, the parent waits for the right time. That's how God works with us. What we think is a no is often just a not yet. You may have been praying for something for years, a job, a promotion, a relationship, a healing, a dream to come to pass. And yet, despite all your efforts, it hasn't happened. You've done everything right. You've stayed faithful. You've prayed. You believed. But the doors remain closed. It's easy to get frustrated and think, why is this taking so long? Did I do something wrong? But Let me remind you today, just because it hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean it's not on the way. What if God is protecting you from something you can't see? What if He's positioning you for something bigger than you imagine? Sometimes we settle for less because we don't see the full picture. We get impatient and try to force things to happen on our own. But when we rush ahead of God's timing, we end up with things that aren't meant for us. That's why God delays certain things, not to frustrate us, but to prepare us for what's coming. Think about a door that's locked. You can bang on it, push it, kick it, try every key you have, but if it's not meant to open, it won't. You could hurt yourself trying to force it. But what if just down the hall, there's a door that's wide open, a door with your name on it, a door that leads to blessings beyond what you asked for? That's why we must trust the delays. If the door hasn't opened, it's because God has something better in store. Look at the story of Abraham. God promised him that he would be the father of many nations. But year after year, decade after decade, nothing happened. No children, no sign of the promise being fulfilled. He and his wife Sarah were getting older. By natural standards, it was impossible, but God's timing is not our timing. What seemed like a delay was actually God's perfect plan. At the right time, when everything was aligned, God gave them Isaac, the son of the promise. If Abraham had given up in the waiting, he would have missed it. If he had said, it's too late, I'm too old, I guess I misunderstood, he would have never seen the promise come to pass. But faith means trusting God even when there's no evidence that things are changing. It means saying, I don't see it yet, but I know it's coming. I don't feel it yet, but I trust that God is working. Some of you have been in a waiting season for a long time. You've been patient, you've been faithful, but nothing seems to be moving. Let me encourage you. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean there's no progress. When a seed is planted, you don't see anything for weeks, sometimes months. But underground, that seed is breaking open, forming roots, growing in ways that are invisible to the human eye. Then at the right time, it pushes through the soil and begins to flourish. That's what's happening in your life. Your prayers, your faithfulness, your perseverance is not in vain. Every moment you stayed in faith, every time you chose to believe instead of complain, every day you got up and kept going, even when you felt like giving up, it's all adding up. And when the time is right, what you've been waiting for will come to pass. But here's the key. Don't quit before your breakthrough. Some people give up right before the door opens. They stop believing right before the blessing arrives. They assume the delay means denial. So they walk away from what was already on the way. But if you could see what God has prepared for you, you wouldn't worry anymore. If you could see how close you are to your breakthrough, you would be rejoicing instead of doubting. So hold on a little longer. Stay in faith a little longer. Keep praying, keep believing, keep expecting, because when it happens, it will happen suddenly. The doors will fly open. The opportunity will show up. The blessing will come, and you'll look back and say, now I understand why I had to wait. Now I see why it didn't happen earlier. God's plan was bigger, better, and beyond anything I could have imagined. God's timing is perfect. It may not always align with our timing, and often it feels like He's taking too long. We live in a world that tells us everything should happen instantly. We want immediate results, instant answers, and quick breakthroughs. But God operates on His own timetable, not ours. He sees what we cannot see, and He knows what we do not know. His plans are greater, His vision is higher, and His ways are beyond our understanding. You may be in a season where it feels like time is passing you by. You've been waiting, praying, and believing, but nothing seems to be changing. It's easy to start thinking, maybe I missed my moment. Maybe it's too late for me. Maybe I should just accept that it's not going to happen. But let me remind you, God is never early and He is never late. He is always right on time. You might not see it now, but when the time is right, everything will fall into place in a way that only He could orchestrate. Think about how precise God's timing is in nature. The sun rises and sets at exactly the right time every single day. The seasons change at just the right moment. A baby is born after exactly the number of days it needs to develop. Nothing in creation happens by accident. And if God can align the entire universe so perfectly, don't you think He knows the perfect time for your blessing, your breakthrough, your answered prayer? Many times we think we're ready for something, but God sees that we still need time to grow. If he gave us what we asked for too soon, we might not be able to handle it. It's not that he's saying no, he's saying not yet. A child may beg for the keys to the car, but a loving parent won't hand him over until the child is mature enough to drive. Otherwise, the very thing that was meant to be a blessing could become a burden. The same is true for us. We may want a new job, but maybe we're not spiritually or emotionally prepared for the responsibility that comes with it. We may want a relationship, but maybe God is still working on healing certain areas of our hearts so that when the right person comes along, we can love them fully and without baggage. We may want financial increase, but maybe God is teaching us how to manage what we have now so that when the increase comes, we will be good stewards of it. If you've been waiting longer than expected, don't get discouraged. Instead of focusing on how long it's taking, start focusing on what God is doing in you during the wait. The waiting season is not wasted. It's a time of preparation, growth, and strengthening. You are not just sitting still. God is refining you, shaping you, and getting you ready for what he has in store. Look at the story of David. He was anointed to be king as a young shepherd boy, but he didn't take the throne immediately. He had to go through years of preparation. He had to fight battles, face challenges, and develop the leadership skills that would be required for his destiny. If he had become king the moment he was anointed, he wouldn't have been ready. God used the waiting time to equip him, and when the right moment came, he stepped into his destiny at exactly the perfect time. Sometimes we feel forgotten in the waiting. We see others around us moving forward, getting their promotions, meeting the right people, stepping into their dreams, and we wonder, God, did you forget about me? But just because it's happening for them now doesn't mean it won't happen for you. Your timeline is different. Your story is unique. And when it's your time, nothing will be able to stop what God has planned for you. Think about an Olympic runner at the starting line. They don't take off running whenever they feel like it. They have to wait for the official signal. If they go too soon, they are disqualified. But when the time is right, the starting gun goes off and they run with full force. That's how God's timing works. You may feel like you're ready to go, but God is waiting for the perfect moment to launch you into your destiny. If you're in a waiting season, don't get weary. Instead of getting frustrated, use this time to prepare. Keep growing, keep learning, keep developing. Stay faithful with what's in front of you. Keep doing your best at your job, even if it feels like you're stuck. Keep showing love, even when you feel unnoticed. Keep trusting God, even when you don't see anything happening, because when your time comes, you won't have to force anything. It will happen naturally, effortlessly, and in a way that no one can deny that it was God's doing. God is setting things up behind the scenes. You may not see any movement, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. He is aligning the right people, opening the right doors, and preparing the right opportunities. When it all comes together, you'll look back and realize that every delay, every setback, and every disappointment was actually working for your good. So don't be discouraged by the wait. God's timing is not just good, it is perfect. When he moves, everything will fall into place in a way that will leave you in awe. What he has planned is greater than what you imagined. And when it happens, it will be so clear that it wasn't by your strength, but by his divine plan. So hold on, stay in faith, and trust that your moment is coming right on time. Stay in faith, not in fear. Fear is one of the greatest tools the enemy uses to hold us back. It whispers doubts in our minds, telling us we're not good enough, that we'll never succeed, that things will never change. Fear magnifies our problems and makes them seem bigger than they are. It causes us to focus on what could go wrong instead of trusting that God is in control. But here's the truth. Fear is a lie. It has no real power unless we give in to it. Faith, on the other hand, is the key that unlocks doors, moves mountains, and brings the impossible to life. Faith doesn't look at how big the obstacle is. It looks at how big God is. Faith doesn't focus on the delay. It focuses on the promise. Faith doesn't get discouraged by what it sees. It stands firm on what it knows. And what do we know? We know that God is faithful. We know that he never fails. We know that he's always working behind the scenes, even when we can't see it. Fear and faith cannot exist in the same space. One will always overpower the other. That's why it's so important to be intentional about what we focus on. If we fill our minds with negativity, doubt, and worst-case scenarios, fear will take over. But if we fill our hearts with God's promises, with gratitude and with expectation, faith will rise up within us. We may not see how things will work out, but faith says, I don't need to see it to believe it. I trust that God is making a way even when I don't understand. Think about Peter walking on water. As long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he did the impossible. He defied logic. He walked on top of the waves. But the moment he started looking at the wind and the waves, fear took over. He began to sink, not because the water changed, not because Jesus wasn't there, but because he shifted his focus. The same thing happens in our lives. When we keep our eyes on God, we can walk through the storms without fear. We can stand in faith knowing that we are protected, provided for, and guided. But the moment we start focusing on the problems, on the challenges, on what could go wrong, fear takes over and we begin to sink. Fear is not from God. It's a distraction. It's designed to keep you from stepping into your destiny. If the enemy can keep you afraid, he can keep you stuck. He can make you doubt yourself, shrink back from opportunities, and settle for less than what God has planned for you. But you were not created to live in fear. You were created to walk in boldness, in confidence, in faith. You were designed to stand tall, even in the face of uncertainty, knowing that God is with you every step of the way. Fear will tell you that you're not smart enough, not strong enough, not talented enough. But faith says, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Fear will tell you that you're too old, too young, too late. But faith says God's timing is perfect and he is never late. Fear will tell you to give up, that it's over, that there's no hope. But faith says God is the God of miracles and he can turn any situation around. Some people live their whole lives in fear. They let fear keep them from applying for the job, from starting the business, from going back to school, from stepping out in faith. They wait for the fear to go away before they take action. But here's the truth. Fear never completely goes away. The key is to move forward in faith despite the fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that fear will not control you. You may feel afraid right now. Maybe you're facing an uncertain future, a difficult challenge, or a big decision. But don't let fear make your choices for you. Don't let fear hold you back from the life God has planned for you. Fear will try to convince you that you're alone, but faith reminds you that God is right there with you. Fear will try to make you believe that things will never change, but faith knows that God is working all things for your good. You are stronger than you think. You are more capable than you realize. God has equipped you with everything you need for the journey ahead. He didn't bring you this far to leave you now. The same God who has carried you through every challenge in the past will carry you through this one too. So refuse to let fear win. Instead, choose faith. Choose to believe in the promises, even when you can't see the outcome. Choose to trust in God's plan, even when you don't understand the process. Choose to stand firm, knowing that no matter what happens, you are safe in his hands. Fear may knock on your door, but you don't have to let it in. The next time fear tries to take over, remind yourself of who you are and whose you are. Speak faith, speak life. Declare victory over your situation. Say, I may not see it yet, but I know my breakthrough is coming. I may not understand it all, but I trust that God is in control. I will not be ruled by fear. I will stand in faith, knowing that my best days are still ahead. Your destiny is too great to let distractions steal your focus. In life, there will always be things that try to pull you away from where God is leading you. There will be negativity, criticism, disappointments, and setbacks. There will be people who don't believe in you, circumstances that don't seem fair, and moments when you feel like giving up. But you have to remember what God has placed inside of you is greater than anything that comes against you. Distractions come in many forms. Sometimes they show up as challenges, unexpected difficulties that make you question whether you're on the right path. Maybe you started out strong, full of excitement, but then obstacles arose. Things didn't go as planned. The opposition was greater than you expected. And now, instead of moving forward, you feel stuck, discouraged, unsure if you should keep going. But the struggle does not mean that you're on the wrong path. In fact, it's often a sign that you're right where you need to be. The enemy wouldn't be fighting you so hard if you weren't headed towards something powerful. Other times, distractions come in the form of comfort. It's easy to settle where you are because moving forward requires effort, risk, and faith. Maybe you've been in the same routine for years, doing the same things, and deep down, You know there's more for you. You know God has placed a dream inside of you, but stepping out into the unknown feels scary. It's tempting to stay where it's safe, where it's familiar, where you know what to expect. But if you want to reach the fullness of your destiny, you can't let comfort hold you back. Growth happens outside of your comfort zone. God is calling you higher, and that means you have to be willing to let go of anything that's keeping you small. People can be distractions too. Not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone will support your dreams. There will be those who criticize, doubt, and even try to talk you out of what you know God has placed in your heart. If you're not careful, you'll spend so much time trying to convince others, trying to gain their approval, that you lose sight of where you're supposed to be going. But you don't need everyone to agree with you. You don't need their validation. What God spoke to you, He didn't necessarily speak to them. That's why it's important to guard your focus. Don't waste your energy trying to get people to understand what only you were meant to see. One of the biggest distractions in life is comparison. It's so easy to look at where others are and feel like you're falling behind. You see their success, their open doors, their blessings, and you start to question, why isn't that happening for me? Why am I still waiting? Why do I have to struggle while they seem to have it easy? But comparison is a trap. It steals your joy, diminishes your confidence, and makes you doubt the unique path that God has for you. The truth is, your journey is different because your calling is different. Your process is not meant to look like anyone else's. Just because someone else is ahead in one area doesn't mean you're behind. God is taking you on a customized path that is preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. When you focus on distractions, you lose sight of the bigger picture. Think about Nehemiah in the Bible. He was rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, doing something that God had called him to do, but as he was working, his enemies kept trying to distract him. They sent messages trying to lure him away, trying to get him to come down from the wall. But Nehemiah refused. He said, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. That needs to be your mindset. You are doing a great work. You don't have time for drama, for negativity, for things that don't align with your purpose. You don't have time to get caught up in distractions that don't serve your destiny. Keep your focus. Keep building. Keep moving forward. Distractions don't always look like problems. Sometimes they look like opportunities that aren't meant for you. Not every open door is from God. Sometimes the enemy will send something that looks good just to keep you from what's best. Maybe it's a job that pays well but would pull you away from your true calling. Maybe it's a relationship that feels right but would keep you from growing spiritually. Maybe it's a shortcut that seems like an easier way, but deep down, you know it's not what God has for you. That's why discernment is so important. You have to know the difference between what's good and what's God. You have to be able to say no to things that seem tempting but aren't part of the divine plan for your life. Staying focused requires discipline. It means setting boundaries. It means being intentional about how you spend your time and where you invest your energy. It means choosing peace over drama, purpose over popularity, progress over perfection. It means reminding yourself daily of the vision God has given you and refusing to let anything pull you away from it. Life is short. Don't waste another year being distracted by things that don't matter. Don't let small-minded people talk you out of big dreams. Don't let temporary setbacks make you give up on permanent blessings. Keep your eyes on where you're going. Keep your heart fixed on God's promises. Keep pressing forward because what's ahead is so much greater than anything you're leaving behind. Stay focused, stay faithful, and watch how God moves in your life in ways beyond what you ever imagined. You are stronger than you think. Life has a way of making us question our strength. Challenges come, obstacles arise, and sometimes we feel like we've reached our limit. Maybe you've been through disappointment after disappointment, and now you're wondering if you have anything left to give. Maybe life has thrown so many unexpected blows your way that you've started believing the lie that you're weak, that you're not capable, that you're not enough. But let me remind you today, you are stronger than you think. You didn't make it this far by accident. You didn't survive everything you've been through just to quit now. The fact that you're still here, still pushing forward, still believing, even after all the storms, is proof of the strength inside of you. Think about all the moments you thought you wouldn't make it, yet here you are. Think about all the nights you cried, all the times you felt like giving up, all the times you didn't see a way out, yet somehow you're still standing. That's not weakness. That's resilience. That's strength. That's the power of perseverance working inside of you. There's something about adversity that reveals our true strength. It's easy to feel strong when everything is going well, when doors are opening, when people are supporting you. But true strength is developed in the hard places, in the waiting seasons, in the lonely moments, in the battles that no one sees. Strength is not just about muscles, it's about mindset. It's about the decision to keep going even when everything in you wants to stop. It's about choosing faith over fear, persistence over quitting, hope over despair. Sometimes we underestimate ourselves. We look at what we're facing and assume it's too much. We convince ourselves that we can't handle it, that we don't have what it takes. But if you could see yourself the way God sees you, you'd realize that there is more inside of you than you've ever imagined. You have untapped potential, hidden strength, abilities you haven't even discovered yet. Just because you feel tired doesn't mean you're weak. Just because the battle is hard doesn't mean you're losing. The pressure you feel is not there to break you. It's there to build you. Think about a diamond. It doesn't become what it's meant to be without intense pressure. Gold is refined through fire. Strong trees don't grow in perfect conditions. They grow by standing through storms, by enduring the wind, by digging their roots deeper. The same is true for you. Every difficulty you face is strengthening you. Every challenge is making you wiser, tougher, and more prepared for what's ahead. If you've ever worked out, you know that muscles grow by resistance. The heavier the weight, the more effort it takes to lift. But over time, what once felt impossible becomes easier. The same is happening in your life. What once made you want to quit, you're now overcoming with confidence. What once felt unbearable, you're now handling with grace. You are growing in strength, in resilience, in endurance. You may not feel strong right now. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're in a season where nothing seems to be going right, and you don't know how much more you can take. But I want you to hear this. You have more in you than you realize. You have the strength to keep going. You have the power to rise above. You have the endurance to finish this race. Don't let temporary struggles make you forget the warrior within you. Strength is not always loud. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments when you choose to get up and try again. It's in the moments when you wipe away your tears and keep pushing forward. It's in the moments when you decide to believe, even when everything around you is telling you to give up. Strength is in the mother who keeps loving her children, even when she's exhausted. It's in the person who keeps working toward their dream, even when no one sees the effort. It's in the one who forgives, who loves, who chooses kindness, even when it's hard. Strength is not about never falling. It's about always getting back up. Stop doubting yourself. Stop letting fear and insecurity make you think you're not capable. You are equipped for this. You have everything you need to overcome. That challenge at work, you can handle it. That difficult relationship, you have the wisdom and patience to navigate it. That big dream that seems out of reach, you have the talent, the resilience, the determination to see it through. Your strength is not just for you. It's for the people around you. There are people watching you, people who draw courage from your perseverance. When you refuse to give up, you inspire others to do the same. When you push through your struggles, you show others that it's possible. You may not even realize it, but your strength is changing lives. So today, walk with confidence. Stand tall. Face whatever comes your way, knowing that you are more than capable. The obstacles in front of you are not there to defeat you. They are there to reveal the strength that has been inside you all along. You are stronger than you think. Keep moving forward and watch how everything begins to fall into place. Your time is coming. It may not seem like it right now. You may be in a season where nothing is changing, where the dreams in your heart feel far away, where you've prayed, believed, worked hard, done everything you know to do, yet the breakthrough hasn't come. Maybe you've been waiting for years and you're starting to wonder if it's ever going to happen. Maybe you've seen others step into their blessings while you feel like you're stuck in the same place. But let me tell you, your time is coming. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not on the way. Just because it's taken longer than you expected doesn't mean God has forgotten you. There is a perfect timing for everything in your life. A set time for doors to open, a set time for things to shift in your favor, a set time for you to step into what's next. And if you could see what God is working behind the scenes, you wouldn't be discouraged. You wouldn't be anxious. You wouldn't be doubting. You would be excited knowing that at the right moment, things are going to come together in a way that you never expected. It's easy to look at the delays, the disappointments, the setbacks, and think, maybe it's not meant to be. But delays are not denials. A closed door now doesn't mean a closed door forever. Some things take time because they're being prepared. Some things take time because you're being prepared. If you received everything you were believing for too soon, it might overwhelm you. It might not last. You might not be ready for the weight of the blessing. Think about a farmer planting seeds. After the seeds are planted, there's no visible sign of growth for a long time. The farmer could easily walk away, assuming nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, in the soil where no one can see, roots are being formed. The foundation is being set, and then, at the right time, what was planted breaks through the ground and begins to grow. That's what's happening in your life right now. You may not see the results yet, but the roots are forming. The foundation is being built. The work is happening where no one can see. When your time comes, things will happen suddenly. What seemed impossible will fall into place. What felt delayed will arrive at just the right moment. What you thought you lost will come back in a greater way. You won't have to force it. You won't have to beg for it. You won't have to struggle to make it happen. It will come with ease because it's already been prepared for you. But in the waiting, your attitude matters. It's easy to grow frustrated, to complain, to get discouraged when things aren't happening as quickly as you'd like. But instead of focusing on what's not changing, start preparing for what's coming. Act like it's already on the way. If you're believing for a promotion, start learning new skills now. If you're believing for a relationship, work on becoming the best version of yourself. If you're believing for a dream to come to pass, start acting like it's already happening. Your preparation is proof of your faith. Don't let frustration make you settle. Sometimes when we get tired of waiting, we're tempted to take shortcuts, to lower our standards, to accept less than what we know we deserve. But don't settle for a good thing. When God has a great thing coming, don't let impatience make you grab onto something that isn't right for you. Trust that what's meant for you will arrive at the perfect time, and it will be better than anything you could have arranged on your own. The people around you may not understand your journey. They may tell you it's taking too long. They may suggest that you give up, that you move on, that you stop believing for something that seems so far away. But don't let their doubts become your doubts. They don't know what God is doing in your life. They don't know how close you are to your breakthrough. What you've been waiting for is closer than you think. You don't have to figure out how it's going to happen. You don't have to force things to work in your favor. You just have to stay faithful, stay patient, and stay expectant. Because when your time comes, it's going to happen so fast, so beautifully, so perfectly, that you'll look back and realize the wait was worth it. Keep believing, keep trusting. Your time is coming. What you've lost is not the end of your story. Life has a way of taking things from us. Opportunities, relationships, dreams we held close. Maybe you've experienced loss that cut deep. Maybe you lost a job you worked hard for, a relationship you thought would last forever, or a chance that slipped through your fingers before you even realized it was gone. Maybe you lost time, years spent in a situation that didn't serve you, time wasted on people who didn't value you, moments that you can never get back. And now, looking at where you are, you wonder if you'll ever recover, if you'll ever regain what was taken, if you'll ever get back to a place where you feel whole again. But let me tell you this, loss is not the final chapter of your story. What you've lost is not greater than what's coming. What you thought was the best season of your life is nothing compared to what's ahead. When you go through a season of loss, it's easy to believe that life will never be the same, that you'll always feel the emptiness, that you'll never fully recover. But what if I told you that nothing is ever truly lost when you're walking in alignment with God's plan? What if I told you that even in your losses, there is something being set up for you that will exceed what you had before? I think about nature when a tree loses its leaves in the fall. It looks barren, lifeless, like it will never be the same again. But what we don't see is what's happening beneath the surface. The tree is not dead, it's not finished, it's preparing for a greater season. When spring comes, new leaves appear, new branches grow, new beauty emerges. And not only does it come back, it comes back stronger, fuller, more vibrant than before. That's what's happening in your life right now. It may look like things have been stripped away, it may feel like you're empty, but beneath the surface, something is being prepared. What you've lost may have been painful, but it was not wasted. Every tear you've cried, every sleepless night, every moment of wondering, why did this happen? None of it has been for nothing. The heartbreak, the setback, the closed door, it all served a purpose. Some things had to be removed from your life so that better things could come. Some doors had to close because they were not meant for you. Some relationships had to end because they were holding you back from where you were meant to go. It's easy to hold on to the past, to keep replaying what happened, to wish things had turned out differently. But if you spend all your time looking back at what's gone, you'll miss what's ahead. You'll miss the new opportunities, the unexpected blessings, the better relationships, the greater success that is waiting for you. What's coming is not just a replacement for what was lost. It's an upgrade. Maybe you lost a job and now you're struggling to see what's next. Maybe you lost someone you loved and the pain is still fresh. Maybe you lost confidence in yourself after too many disappointments. But just because you lost something doesn't mean you lost your future. You are still here, which means there is still more ahead for you. You are still breathing, which means your story is still being written. You don't have to figure out how everything will be restored. That's not your job. Your job is to keep moving forward, to keep believing, to trust that what's meant for you will find its way to you. Sometimes we think we need to go back and fix what was broken, but what if what's ahead is so much greater that you won't even miss what you lost? There are people who have lost everything and built something even better. There are people who thought their best days were behind them, only to discover that the greatest moments of their lives were still ahead. That can be your story too. Your losses don't define you. Your setbacks don't determine your future. What's coming is greater than what's gone. So don't dwell on what's behind you. Don't let the pain of loss keep you from moving forward. Don't let bitterness take root in your heart. What you've lost may have been significant, but what's ahead is even greater. Keep your head up, keep your heart open, and watch how life begins to bring you more than you ever imagined. The challenges you're facing are not here to defeat you. They are here to prepare you. Sometimes when we go through difficulties, it's easy to feel like we're being buried under the weight of pressure, setbacks, and disappointments. You may be dealing with something right now that feels too big, too overwhelming, too impossible to overcome. Maybe you face rejection after rejection, failure after failure, loss after loss, and you're starting to wonder if you'll ever break free from this season of struggle. But let me remind you, this challenge is not the end of you, it's the making of you. Everything great comes through a process of refining. Diamonds are formed under extreme pressure. Gold is purified through fire. Muscles grow through resistance. The process may be painful, but it's producing something in you that you couldn't develop any other way. You're gaining strength you didn't know you had. You're learning lessons that will prepare you for what's next. You're developing resilience, patience, and endurance. And when you come out of this, you won't just be the same person. You'll be stronger, wiser, and ready for the next level of your destiny. Think about the most successful people in the world, whether in business, sports, leadership, or any field. None of them got to where they are without struggle. They faced failure. They encountered obstacles. They went through seasons where nothing seemed to be working. But they didn't let those challenges define them. They used them as stepping stones. They took the hard times and turned them into fuel. And because they didn't quit in the middle of the difficulty, they eventually reached heights they never imagined. Maybe you feel like giving up right now. Maybe you're tired of fighting, tired of trying, tired of believing for something better. But what if you're closer than you think? What if this challenge is the final test before your breakthrough? What if instead of resisting it, you embraced it as part of your journey? Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is this preparing me for? Because I promise you, this is not for nothing. There's something powerful about a mindset shift. When you stop seeing challenges as things that are trying to destroy you and start seeing them as things that are building you, everything changes. You stop feeling like a victim and start seeing yourself as a warrior. You stop focusing on how hard it is and start focusing on how strong you're becoming. You stop letting circumstances dictate your attitude and start choosing to rise above them. Some of the greatest victories come right after the greatest struggles. Just when it seems like you can't take one more step, that's often when the breakthrough happens. Just when you feel like you've reached your limit, something shifts. And that's why you can't afford to quit now. That's why you have to keep pushing, keep believing, keep standing firm. Because if you stop now, you might miss the moment where everything changes. Maybe right now it feels like you're stuck, like nothing is happening, like the situation will never improve. But just because you don't see progress doesn't mean it's not happening. Just like a seed in the ground, growth is taking place even when it's not visible. Your perseverance is making a difference. Your faithfulness is paying off. The effort you're putting in is not wasted. There will come a moment when everything you've been working for, everything you've been believing for, everything you've been fighting for suddenly comes together. And when that moment comes, you'll realize that every hardship was worth it. So don't back down now. Don't let the pressure make you retreat. Don't let the obstacles make you think it's over. You were made for this. You were built to withstand the storm. And when you come out of this season, you'll look back and see that this challenge wasn't here to stop you. It was here to launch you into something greater. Keep going. Keep trusting. You're being prepared for something incredible. The best is yet to come. No matter what your past looks like, no matter what you've been through, no matter how many disappointments you've faced, your story is far from over. You may have had good moments before, times when everything seemed to fall into place, seasons where you felt like you were thriving, and now maybe you're looking back feeling like your best days are behind you. Maybe you think you've already seen the greatest moments of your life, that you've reached your peak, that nothing ahead could ever compare to what you've already experienced. But let me remind you, your best days are not behind you, they are ahead of you. The best is yet to come. Life has a way of making us think that we've already seen our greatest moments, especially after we've been through hardship. Maybe you've faced loss that left you feeling empty. Maybe you've been through setbacks that made you question if you'll ever get another opportunity. Maybe you've watched other people move forward while you feel stuck in the same place, and now you wonder if there's anything greater left for you. But what if I told you that what's coming is bigger, better, and more fulfilling than anything you've experienced so far? What if I told you that the past was just preparation for what's ahead? You have to believe that your future holds more than your past. If you keep looking back, longing for what once was, you'll miss what's coming. If you keep comparing everything to what you've already seen, you won't recognize the new opportunities, the new blessings, the new doors opening for you. The truth is, every ending is the beginning of something greater. When one season closes, another one begins. And if you spend too much time mourning what's behind you, you won't be ready to step into what's ahead. Think about the seasons of nature. Just because summer ends doesn't mean the warmth and light are gone forever. Just because the leaves fall in autumn doesn't mean the trees are dead. Just because winter comes doesn't mean life has disappeared. Seasons change, but each one serves a purpose. And no matter how harsh the winter, spring always comes again. That's how life works too. You may be in a season where things feel cold, where you don't see growth, where everything seems still, but that doesn't mean it's over. A new season is on its way, and it's bringing more than you ever imagined. Sometimes what looks like an ending is really just a transition. What seems like a closed door is actually leading you to a bigger opportunity. What feels like a failure is often just a lesson. It's preparing you for success. The things you've been through were not wasted. The pain you endured was not meaningless. Every challenge, every setback, every moment that felt unfair, it's all part of a bigger picture, a story that is still unfolding. You haven't seen the final chapter yet. It's easy to believe that your greatest moments are behind you when you've experienced loss. Maybe you lost a relationship, a job, an opportunity, and now you feel like you'll never have something that good again. But just because you lost something good doesn't mean something better isn't on the way. Life has a way of replacing what was lost with something even greater. Sometimes we hold on to the past so tightly because we think it was the best we'll ever have, but if we let go, we'll realize that we were settling for less than what we truly deserve. Your best days are ahead, not because life is perfect, but because you are growing, you are evolving, you are stepping into new things. Every experience you've had has shaped you, has prepared you, has equipped you for what's next. And what's next is more fulfilling, more meaningful, more aligned with who you are meant to be. But here's the key: you have to believe it. You have to start expecting good things. You have to stop looking at the future with fear and start looking at it with faith. If you wake up every day thinking nothing will ever change, nothing will ever get better, that your best days are over, then that's exactly what you'll experience. But if you wake up believing that something great is coming, that new opportunities are on the way, that you are stepping into the best season of your life, then you'll start to see things shift. Your mindset shapes your reality. There is so much ahead of you. Doors you haven't even knocked on yet are going to open. People you haven't met yet are going to change your life. Opportunities you haven't even considered are going to present themselves. You have to be ready. You have to believe that your future is not something to fear. It's something to be excited about. No matter what has happened before, no matter how many times you've been disappointed, no matter how long you've been waiting, don't lose hope. The best is yet to come. And when it does, you'll look back and realize that everything, every hardship, every delay, every moment of waiting was leading you to something greater than you ever imagined. Keep believing, keep expecting, and get ready for what's ahead.